There's a certain kind of evening after you've seen your parents. Maybe it was a phone call, maybe a holiday, or just a meal after too long apart, and nothing went wrong. No one raised their voice. Everyone smiled and you said your goodbyes. But the moment you close your own front door behind you, something drains out of you all at once. Empty. That's the only word that fits. It's a strange thing. You just spent time with people you love, so why does it leave you this hollow? And right behind the tiredness, something heavier arrives. Guilt. The quiet shame of noticing that when you picture your parents, weariness comes before warmth, and of feeling, because of that, like a bad son or a bad daughter. If you're nodding quietly right now, if you don't hate your parents at all, but you leave every visit worn out, and then scold yourself for it in private, then stay with me tonight. Because that tiredness and the guilt stitched to it is exactly what tonight is about. So let me put tonight's turn on the table first. It isn't that you're too sensitive. If you come away drained every single time, it isn't because your heart is unusually weak or because you don't know how to be grateful. In psychology, there's a quiet idea that goes like this. Some parents grew up on the surface, but inside, their emotional age stalled somewhere very young. And when you're near a parent like that, it's the child who ends up carrying the adult's weight, which is why you run dry over and over. We were taught the opposite for a long time, that leaving a parent tired is proof you're an ungrateful child. But it may not be that at all. The exhaustion may have had a reason all along. So tonight, I want to give that guilt a precise name. And then I want to show you how, when you finally set down the long fight to change your parents, a little room to breathe opens up instead, with the help of two people who looked into this more closely than almost anyone. The first is Lindsay Gibson, an American clinical psychologist. After years of sitting with people in her consulting room, Gibson kept noticing the same scene repeat itself. The people who came to her would say some version of this. My parents weren't bad people. They never hit me, never left me hungry. On paper, they gave me everything. And yet somehow, beside them, I always felt lonely and hollow. No event you could point to and call abuse, but a home where, emotionally, you were always a little starved. Gibson called these parents emotionally immature. This immaturity wears a few different faces. The parent so flooded by their own feelings that the child has to manage the parent's mood instead. The parent locked onto goals and getting everything right, who reaches in to control a child's life. The parent who avoids anything uncomfortable and pretends it isn't there. And the parent who simply shuts the door and pushes you away. The faces differ, but they share one thing. There's no room, inside that parent, to take in the child's feelings as they actually are. So what happens to a child raised in a house like that? Gibson gave special attention to one pattern, the child who turns all the blame inward. If the air at home is cold, I must have done something wrong. If a parent seems unhappy, I need to try harder. This child takes on the whole weight of the family's emotional weather, the one we usually call the good child. And that child grows into an adult who feels wrung out after seeing a parent, and then blames themselves for feeling it. Gibson described the loneliness of these children like this. Emotional loneliness is so distressing that a child who experiences it will do whatever is necessary to make some kind of connection with the parent. These children may learn to put other people's needs first as the price of admission to a relationship. And the bitter twist, she notes, is that this only deepens the loneliness, because covering up what you most need keeps anyone from truly reaching you. The price of admission. I sat with that line for a long while. You learn very young that you get to keep the connection only by hiding what you actually need. And then, having hidden it, you're never quite met, not as a child, and not later, as the capable adult everyone leans on, who somehow still feels alone in a room full of people. Now, some decades before Gibson, someone went deeper into this than almost anyone. Her name was Alice Miller, a psychoanalyst born in Poland who worked in Switzerland. She was Jewish, and she survived the Second World War in hiding, and she lost nearly all of her family. She knew this wound in her own body long before she wrote about it. Miller's most famous book is called The Drama of the Gifted Child. But here, the word gifted doesn't mean what we usually think. It isn't the clever child, the high achiever. It's the child with a talent for reading a parent, the one who can tell, at a glance, what mood their mother is in today, what their father wants to hear. Miller believed it was precisely that talent that became the child's tragedy. Because, to be loved, that child starts to perform the self the parent wants. Brave when it isn't brave, fine when it isn't fine, wanting nothing at all. And while it builds this pleasing, agreeable version of itself, the child's real feelings and real needs slip out of sight. Gibson's good child and Miller's performing child, different eras, different words, turn out to be the same person. And the strange thing Miller noticed is that the performance often works. These children grow into admired adults, competent, sensitive, the ones others rely on. From the outside, nothing looks wrong, but inside, there's a quiet puzzle they can't solve. They can read what everyone around them feels and go blank when asked what they themselves want. The self that could have answered went quiet a long time ago, back when going quiet was the safest thing to do. Now, one honest caution. This isn't a law pulled out of a brain scan. It's a picture drawn from years of sitting across from people in a consulting room, and the fair way to hold it is this. There are clinicians who keep drawing this same picture, but the fact that the picture struck so many people, that Gibson's book has sold more than 1.5 million copies, probably tells us how many were quietly aching in the same way. Let me be clear about 2 things here. First, tonight isn't heading toward cutting your parents off. In fact, Gibson's book drew that very criticism, that it could be read as a prescription to sever the whole relationship. So let me draw the line plainly. Tonight we go as far as the diagnosis, and enough distance to keep yourself safe. Not estrangement, but finding the spot where you get hurt a little less. Second, this isn't about seating your parents in the chair marked bad people. Emotionally immature parent can land like an insult, but most of them too became adults without ever having their own feelings received by their own parents, just as starved in their own turn. So this diagnosis isn't a weapon aimed at a parent. It's closer to a pair of glasses that lets you see the situation a little more clearly. So here's the one thing I'd hope you carry with you. There's a fight most of us hold on to the longest. This time, it'll be different. This time, they'll finally understand me. In Miller's language, it's the old hope that someday, from this person, you'll truly be seen. And while we wait for that hope to come true, we keep walking into each visit loaded with expectation and keep leaving drained. So before your next visit or call, you might try settling one thing in advance. This is as far as this person can go, and set your expectation right there ahead of time. It sounds almost too small to matter, but there's a difference between walking in hoping the conversation finally goes somewhere new and walking in already knowing, gently, that it probably won't. The first leaves you exposed. The second lets you stay kind without staying wounded. Fold away, for tonight, the picture where your parent suddenly understands your feelings and apologizes. Instead, you might let yourself count on them being exactly as they've always been. And strangely, when you do that, there's less to be disappointed by. In the space where the disappointment used to be, a little room to breathe appears. You take the energy you spent trying to change them, and you turn it back toward taking care of yourself, the one person who quietly needed it all along. Remember that evening at the start? The one where you'd just seen someone you love and came home hollow for no reason you could name. I'd like to meet those evenings differently now. Instead of blaming myself, I want to think, I spent a long time again tonight trying to draw out of that person something they never had it in them to give. That tiredness isn't proof I'm a bad child. It may be the honest trace of someone who kept waiting for what was never there to receive. To see a parent as they actually are isn't to stop loving them. It's closer to quietly setting down one impossible hope and only then coming back to the life that's yours to live. Let me close with the line Alice Miller left about the child inside herself, the child who believed love had to be earned. Without these achievements, these gifts, I could never be loved, would never have been loved. Maybe growing up isn't doing more to earn it. Maybe it's giving yourself, for the first time, a place where you're allowed to have done nothing at all. Thank you for keeping me company this far.
Held my hand out, came back empty again. This is as far, so I let the door close. We smiled, said our goodnights, nothing went wrong. So why do I sink down, taking off my shoes?